Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. So in line with this other video about how I want to do so many things, I also started thinking about how one of my current aspirations is trying to be more boring, and I'm going to try to not make this boring. Okay, so where to begin with this? It's very interesting because being in San Diego right now, I'm really having like this strong urge to just do something very extreme, which I often have that urge. Doesn't mean I'm going to do anything. I'd say the most extreme thing I did was I signed up to go to Armenia the one time I was at NASA and just was not liking my job there that duration of time. They call them tours, like for like 4 months at a time. And today I'm just sort of like, what if I just threw all my crap in a storage unit and just went and lived somewhere else? And I'm not going to do that, but it doesn't mean I don't feel like doing it sometimes. And so, yeah, so I feel like the objective has been to kind of make my life sort of more boring because, when I look around and, part of it's society, part of it's a me problem. But, I'm approaching 30. This is like really making me, I still have some months. I've been saying I'm 30 for like the entire time I've been 29, but that's just how I am. So, it's just like, I think probably because I've been spending a lot of time with families, I'm like, I just want to be like boring and get a house and get married and have kids and cats and dogs and stuff. Well, maybe only one cat and 2 dogs. That sounds good. Whatever. It's not really important. But, I'm just like, that would be nice to just like do the boring thing. Although I realize I'm not really like a boring person, so I don't know, at least people don't think I am, right? That's how I have a whole channel that people actually watch about like a talking head talking about random things. I know, I think about like the channels I actually watch. I'm like, these people are actually like delivering quality content. Why are people watching my channel? Then I started thinking about whether I should do psychological analysis, and that could be a lot more interesting, but I don't know if anybody would actually care about that, but those are the ones that I watch. Yeah, it was kind of like I had a discussion with my brother this morning, and I feel like my brother's really good at analyzing things, and that was kind of I don't know, also made me think about some stuff. But anyway, I'm trying to figure out how to piece this all together. So, being boring on one hand sounds really cool, but on the other hand, I think I'm starting to have this thing that happens to me when I travel around the US, and I don't do this often, okay? But usually I'll stay somewhere for like about 2 or 3 weeks, which is probably too long to be honest with you. But I start to feel very like out of sorts because usually I don't have a car. Yeah, all the times I've done this, I haven't had a car. So one time I was in Texas, one time I was in Colorado, and now I'm here. And sometimes it really puts you at the mercy of other people, and you feel bad having them drive you around. I do walk around. Probably gonna walk to a cafe later today, just walking, chilling. Yeah, and it's nice. People like having guests and all that cool stuff. But I do feel very like kind of weird. And then, whereas like when I'm traveling and I'm just a guest somewhere in like Armenia or Kyrgyzstan or Finland, I'm not a guest, but when I'm in those places it's a little bit different because I have more autonomy because like there's public transportation kind of thing. I guess Australia was like a little bit like this too now that I'm thinking about it. I just keep saying Australia is like America but a chill version. So yeah, if I had my own car there, that'd be cool. Maybe I should start doing car rentals. That's just so expensive. Ugh, my car rental for a week in Hawaii was $500. Like, I'm not doing that again. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is like, there is a part of me that sometimes is like, what if I was just like screw it to everything, and then I just like dealt with not having money and just like went back to Finland and enjoyed my life there? Because there is this concept I learned about back in 2016, which is like, you can essentially, there's this problem, there's a term for it, it's like time poor, and then there's a converse of it, but essentially you can like work a lot and have money, which is cool because then you can do a lot of things with money, but then you don't have time, or you can have time but then you don't have money, and it's really hard to have like both of those things at once. Which, when you read a lot of the wealth building books, it's going to talk a lot about how like the most valuable thing is your time, and eventually when you get to a point where you have enough money that you can have more time, then there's that. But my argument is the more you have, the more you have to worry about and the more you have to manage. So to me, it's kind of like a paradox, like a lot of things. That's kind of how I feel with this. It's like on one hand I really want to be boring, but probably once I become boring, it's not going to work very well for very long. Like when I think about the times I've really liked my life the most, it's probably when I'm like leaving Lappeenranta every weekend to go somewhere random, to be honest. Whereas when I was at NASA in Texas, my weekends were super boring because I would literally just go take Arabic lessons and like cook food and eat, and I was like pretty isolated. So I think that brings me to my next point, which is really that, like, you know, with this discussion I was having with my brother, he's saying one of your problems right now is you're not really having like this deep, meaningful connection with people. And I was like, that makes sense. You know, I do call people, I do have friends, I'm pretty social, but I think I just experienced more of that in Finland due to the not being time poor thing and having time to like build relationships and really like see people regularly. Whereas I don't think there's ever been any point in my life at which I've felt like I've had the time bandwidth, especially while in the US, to do that. And I think that's one of the things that makes me get really like sad about the US, or just not like the US, or it feels like a part of myself dies whenever I leave Finland, even though right now I'm working in Finland. But it's just like maybe I have less time than most people, but more people have more time than I do, so it's like pretty easy to get together with people. In the US, it's like getting this one-to-one where both people can get together and we didn't reschedule 5 times, forget it. Like, it's really kind of a lot sometimes to do that. I wouldn't say all the time, but like it is something that happens. So it's sort of like the whole actually being social thing in the US and feeling connected thing, that's the thing I struggle with. So as much as I'm like, oh, I want to be boring, I want to have a house and stuff, I think maybe in some ways I need to realize it's kind of meaningless if I don't really feel like connected with people. And I think that's probably part of why I don't really want to move where like I'm living right now, because I'm not really super willing to just start over again and go make all these new connections and friends. It was funny because I was listening to one of the Healthy Gamer GG videos yesterday, like this new one that was released about guys getting over breakups, because, you know, I like to listen to things that have nothing to do with me sometimes. No. But in there, it was so funny because it was talking about like being a dude, and he's like, I think that women, I just think this one is so funny. He's like, I think that women think that if they don't keep up with somebody all the time, they can't be like friends with them. And I'm like, maybe I'm secretly a dude. Not gonna lie, like sometimes I do feel like a dude, but like not like that. It's just like certain things that I feel like I'm supposed to care about or do, I just don't. But I don't know where that's coming from, honestly. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, I do that too, where like I'll just randomly reach out to people. Most of the time people are fine with getting together with me, but I don't really understand why it's a thing. Like, you haven't talked to somebody in a while, you can't talk to them. Like, but I also move around with such great frequency that it was, you know, pretty rare for a while that I'm in the same place for pretty rare for a while. It's still going to be rare for the next month, and then we're going to calm down a little bit. But then I'm going to be at the restaurant, so I'm not going to want to see anybody. So there's that too. Restaurant season. Oh God, I'm not looking forward to it. Yeah. So it's hard because I will admit that, you know, I've kind of been trained, programmed, whatever, to like prioritize making money over like having connections with people. And it's not really like because anybody told me to do that. It's because I was the example that I saw growing up. And, you know, my aunt said something very smart this trip where she's like, what is most important is the example that you set for your kids, like, because they're going to see you doing something. Like, she talked specifically about like being a woman who has a job and can support herself. Like, she felt like that example was really important to show her kids. And I was like, word, I agree. And, you know, that's the thing is like, I'm thinking about like the example my dad said, and I'm like, yeah, you just gotta work all the time. Why? I don't really know. I don't know why. Actually I do. I Googled it before I left Finland. It has to do with the fact that it's actually an emotional regulation tool, because if you feel like very out of control and very like you can't deal with how you're feeling, like working a lot kind of numbs yourself to it. I'd say out of a lot of coping mechanisms, it's probably the healthiest, but I don't think it really addresses the underlying issues. So there's that. So, I don't know. I'm really hopeful that once my life becomes more boring, maybe I'll be able to work on some of those issues, like working a lot. That sounds very counterintuitive. I need to work on working a lot. I need to work on not working a lot. Yeah, so I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, so that's kind of the goal, is to just like see what it feels like to be a normal person. But the reality is I'm not really sure I was like cut out for it, so I'm not sure how long it's going to work for. I kind of have to be honest with myself about that. And it is possible to be of two minds, right? On one hand, I can be like, oh, I totally like crave this like, you know, boring lifestyle, like the picket white fence 2.5 kids kind of thing. But then in reality, that's not really going to work for me. So probably I'm just going to be a snowbird with Finland and the US, and then that should be good enough for me. And that's kind of boring, but not that boring. It's not like the super boring. So, I don't know. Yeah, I just know that I'm not normal, and sometimes it feels like the harder you try to act like you're something you're not, the worse it's going to backfire at some point. So we'll see. We'll see how this channel evolves from migratory Michaela to just like snowbird Michaela, maybe. That's what it can turn into. That would be cool. And I think that will work. And then maybe I can talk about like, how do I do that? And what are the drawbacks and what are the considerations for that? I think that's why at some point I really would like to be more entrepreneurial, because that would allow for that more easily. But you just gotta be super smart and talented for that, and whew, it's a tall order, man. Alright, I'm gonna go work and stuff now. Hopefully this was kind of interesting. If not, I'll just keep it as one of these videos I watch for myself later. Because I rarely do that, but I have done it. Alright, until next time. Bye.